Welcome to the Car Sim and Race Driver Show, presented by Hugh Hattrick. Here at Bathurst in the Forest, my very special guest, Basic Ollie, Rascal, Rabbit, Josh Martin. It's great to have you back on the show. Drive fast and try not to crash. Hello and good evening to everyone out there who is watching tonight on the Car Sim and Race Driver Show. Well, we have a very special guest indeed tonight because we've got a real racing driver, not just someone who plays sims and things like that, but actually someone who's been there and who's taken the checkered flag and has raced real cars. It is Luke Reade. Welcome to the show, Luke.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome indeed. So all of our viewers will be very interested to know what it's like to be a real racing driver. So I've got a few questions here to kind of start off with, and then eventually we'll get to the viewers' comments as well. And no doubt you might have some of your family and friends watching, so be prepared for strange and crazy questions.
No doubt.
Because that's what usually happens when we get going. But the first question was, how did you get started in motorsport?
I mean, I've grown up around it. My old man, I don't know if you know, my old man has a motorsport shop based at Brands Hatch, and ever since I can remember, he's had a stand at various motorsport shows like the Auto Sport Show, Goodwood, Festival of Speed. So I've been going to them since I can remember, going to watch like the Wiscombe Hill Climb and stuff like that. So I've always loved it. Formula One on every Sunday, watch sports car racing. Yeah, basically we've always known how expensive racing is, and even the go-karting level, how expensive it can be. So we sort of dabbled with it on and off, but never really got stuck in. And then when I was about 16, I had the option to stay on in school, stay on in sixth form, or it was go get a job and pay to go racing, basically pay to go go-karting. And it was a bit of a no-brainer in my eyes. I didn't really care what the job was. It was like, right, let's go racing, let's get some money and let's go. So I fell on my feet a little bit. I got a really good job as a designer. But yeah, we went go-karting and the rest is history. But I started a little bit later than most. I mean, most drivers that you speak to, they'll say they started at the ages of like under 10 or probably. But I didn't really start until I was 16. So yeah, a bit of a late bloomer.
Yeah. And what was it like, coming through, go-karts? Because I mean, it's really competitive. I mean, did you have a few ups and downs in your kind of early years of driving go-karts, or did you know that, yeah, you were really competitive from the start and you could do well?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely had a few downs, but that's just part and parcel of it. I mean, the ups you get more than make for having some lows. But yeah, I mean, the karting's always been competitive. It still is now. I was lucky enough to race against some good names back in the day. I mean, we didn't go straight in and start doing owner-driver. We actually started hire karting just because it's a little bit cheaper, and you can dabble at it and see if you're any good before you start spending the big bucks. But yeah, so we started hire karting, done about a year in that, and then sort of realised, there might be something here. And then yeah, we bought a go-kart and then started doing a bit of owner driver at local go-kart tracks. And yeah, sort of progressed through from that. Done it on and off for a couple of years.
Ah, fantastic. And so I would say, what's your best moment so far in your motorsport career? What's been the biggest high that you've had from racing?
I mean, it's easy to say a win, definitely. But I mean, we've met a lot of great people on the way, and we've got a great little motorsport family. Hope some of you are watching. But yeah, they come to every race, they support me, and just like, there's no real standout moment. The whole thing has just been a massive journey, and the memories I've made and the people I've met, it'll be something I'll never forget, no matter what time I knock it on the head.
That's fantastic. And did you start your first kind of car racing career? Was it in the minis? Was that kind of your first from going from
Yeah,
go?
yeah. So when we were on and off karting, I think it was 2013, 2014, and we were actually working for so my old man had a stall in the Masters, which is like a historic Formula One, and they sort of go around Europe. And we had a stand in there. We're selling merchandise and stuff like that. And we got quite friendly with a couple of the teams. And one of the guys sort of said, "Look, I'm going to run a mini in the Mini Challenge Championship," which is when it was first starting back in 2015. And we'll do you a deal. Do you want to come and do it? And we sort of crunched the numbers together, spoke to a few people, and it all fell into place. But yeah, we've done that for 2 years to start. And yeah, it was incredible. It was absolutely awesome getting behind the wheel of one of those Mini Challenge cars.
Yeah. So what was it like from going from go-karts to then jumping into a mini? Because, I mean, it's a very fast racing car and very, very competitive field. What was it, the feelings that go through your head when you're out there on the grid and things that, the grid is clearing and the lights are coming up and, what was the difference between doing that and doing karting? I know it seems, I'm sure it will be a big difference, but what was your kind of memorable moments from that?
Yeah, no, I remember turning up to the first race weekend. We hardly tested the car at all, and I was confident in my head. I was like, "Oh, we're going to do all right here." I wasn't thinking of going out and winning, but I thought I'd be there or thereabouts. And then when I actually got onto the circuit, I was like, "These boys are quick." And then you sort of realise the preparation and the work you've got to put in behind the scenes to test and just to be as ready as you can be to go racing. But as I said, yeah, we were sort of on it from the word go, but there was a lot of reliability issues in the first year of the Mini. There was I remember one race at Brands, the Grand Prix circuit at Brands. We were sort of going along. We were moving up the grid. We got into about fifth position. I was getting into the rhythm, and the gear stick came off in my hand. So here we go. But the year was kind of like that. And again, at the time, I wasn't laughing about it, but I can definitely look back and laugh now.
Yeah, goodness me. I mean, I was watching that mini race that you had at Donington, and it was just like you could see that the amount of pressure the gearbox goes under with that kind of differential gearbox. And if nothing's worse than you're going to have reliability problems in it, you kind of hope that things will keep going and kind of to help you go up the field. But I'll go to one of our first questions because it's from one of my co-hosts, Andrew Marr, who's watching. And he says, "What is the longest series of corners that you've been side by side fighting for a place in the Ginetta Super Cup?"
Oh God! So 2021 is going to be my first full season of the Super Cup, and we were lucky enough to enter the last two rounds last year. And so we raced at Snetterton and Brands, and I vaguely remember at Snetterton, I wasn't really expecting to be in the forefront because it was our first race. We hadn't tested the car. It was like, let's just go racing and see where we come. And we actually done all right. And I had a side-by-side battle with one of the guys who's racing the championship for years. I don't know if you know the name Colin White, but he's done it for a long time. And I remember doing half the lap side-by-side with him. We're hitting wind mirrors. Keep away from my car, please. But yeah, no, it is quite thrilling because you sit so low in the car as well, and you don't really see a great deal. So a lot of it's you've driven the track so many times, you know where to put the car, but you don't know where the other driver is. So there's a few wing mirror bangs, but nothing worse than that.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good. I mean, as you say, the cars are incredibly lively, and the championship is great fun to watch. Do you think now, as you start your first kind of full year doing the Super Cup, are you quite optimistic that you can be right up there and maybe get some go for the top positions?
Yeah. So the way we've raced before is we've always, so me and my old man especially, we've always got our eyes on the top championship. We want to be winning in whatever's the best championship, and we sort of launch ourselves into these championships like the Mini Challenge and the Clio Cup and stuff like that without really knowing what we're doing, and we haven't been as prepared in previous seasons, and we've sort of done it on a bit of a budget, like half the budget of what other people would do. Whereas this year we've partnered up with Billy Ruffian Racing, and yeah, we're very prepared, and I'm looking forward to it because we can do a good amount of testing. We can have the right amount of tires, and yeah, I'm optimistic for this year. I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, I'll go to some of the questions from some of the people who are watching tonight and are asking in the chat. We've got Jake Toombs, who says, do you have a following of people who come to watch you race? If so, who is your favourite? That may be a loaded question.
Yeah, well, it's definitely not Jake Toombs. No, he's one of the boys that's come. He's been there since day dot. Him and one of my best mates, Tom, as well. They've sort of come to everything since, even from the go-karting level. And unfortunately, they're watching now. I didn't think they would be, but they are. But yeah, no, we've got a great little entourage that comes down from mum and dad, brothers, so other various family members and friends, and yeah, we have a good laugh on the race weekends as well, which is not what it's all about. It's all about performing on circuit, but it's definitely a good second.
Yeah, I think it's great having your friends about, though, isn't it? Because they can either cheer you up if you've had a tough run, or celebrate with you.
Yeah, 100%.
It's quite nice.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's the thing. And Jake has also got another question saying, can you
Has he?
the racing saying the Buffalo girls go round the outside? He's always wondered.
I don't know. It's an old saying that we've been saying against it because the boys we go-karting quite a lot together, and someone might pull an outrageous move and that gets said after. And to be fair, there's not really any meaning. He's been asking me what it means for years, and I don't know, Jake. I'm sorry.
That's the thing. At least as long as you can laugh off the crazy move, that's the main thing, isn't it? That nobody gets too angry. Now we've got another question from Andrew Marr. He says, have you ever met people like Nigel Mansell or Murray Walker or people like that?
I've definitely met some fantastic drivers in my time. I haven't met Nigel Mansell or Murray Walker per se, but I remember when I was young, very young. I can't remember what age, but my old man took me to the F1 testing at Silverstone when that was a thing back when we had Mika Hakkinen, the McLaren, David Coulthard, so early 2000s, late 90s. And I was all dressed up in a little Ferrari outfit, and we were sort of going up and down the paddock to see if we could get any autographs. And most of the teams didn't really oblige. To be fair, McLaren let us in and let me sit in a car, which was pretty special. But I still remember bumping into Alex Zanardi when he was in the Williams, and actually he was like such a nice lad, because most of the drivers are sort of tucked away. They keep themselves to themselves. Yeah. But he actually came out, sat down with me, had a chat to my old man, and I was a bit in awe, just sort of sitting there thinking he's a Formula One driver. But we've just throughout the years bumped into a few various people at the circuits, but I don't really want to go and chew their ear off because I'm sure they get that from enough other people.
It is amazing. That's a great thing though about going to motor racing, and I'm sure from being at Goodwood, if your father has his business there, you meet amazing amounts of people that come along that just turn up. I remember when I went there one year, and Nico Rosberg was there, and he just literally walked past, and it was incredible. We were like, "Are you sure we just saw Nico Rosberg?" It was incredible actually, and the people that you meet at things like that. So you must have had some fantastic kind of experiences, because obviously with your father's business at all the big races, it must have been quite good to did you ever find that anyone that came along to see you, have a look at your shop, that you think, oh my goodness, is he going to buy some merchandise? And feel pressure to
we'll have to get him on this as well. He'll poke his head in and say, oh, I met so and so. But when obviously we don't really do the shows so much now because he's got more of a stable shop at Brands. But back in the day, I would sort of put my hand up to say I'll come and help too, whereas deep down I knew I was just going to sneak off and go and watch the cars or go and see the drivers. I still remember going to Le Mans in the early 2000s and stuff, where I was only a kid and he had a stand there, and I'd sneak off and just go and watch, because see a 24-hour race, you can sneak off at any point and go and see the racing. But yeah, he's had various names pop in and out the shop to buy merchandise.
That's fantastic. And what kind of stuff is it that he sells as well, to give our viewers an idea of what they can buy?
So it's a bit of everything really, motorsport wise. So if you're a driver, he can do crash helmets, race suits, all that kind of stuff, and then he does all of the merchandise side of things as well. So from anything from race prints to originals to memorabilia like mini champs models, and you can get a replica crash helmet, and you'll have to pop in next time you're down Brands Hatch.
Yeah, it's on the other. I'm in the northeast of England now, but I do come down every so often to come down to Silverstone and other places, and heading further afield into Goodwood. So yeah, no, that would be amazing to come and see. Now we've got some great questions here from Sam Looks. He says, "What do you prefer, front-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive, and why?"
Sam's a fan that keeps stalking me, and I can't get rid of him. But he, I'd say I prefer rear-wheel drive, from just basically going back to the basics of go-karting. So back in the karts, obviously they're all rear-wheel drive, so you sort of get used to that. And then when I jumped into a front-wheel drive, I found it so odd, like just like a silly little thing. So if you got it all a bit crossed up in the corner, you'd sort of, your natural instinct is to back off and take your foot off the gas. But in reality, you've got to go flat out and try and get the front wheels to pull you out of the spin. And that took me a little while. To getting heat in the rears of the car is the most important thing, because once you've got heat in the rears, you've got so much more confidence in the car. But I would say I prefer rear wheel drive, because you can sort of, in the corner in a rear wheel drive, if there's enough power, you can really get the car moving about with the throttle. And I find like I've got a little bit more play with it.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. But and another good question from Kevin Murphy is, who is your racing hero?
It's you, Kevin. No, I mean, I really got into Formula One when Lewis started racing. So I've always watched it on and off, but I started watching it a bit more religiously from then. And I know he's got his critics, but I still think he's amazing in the car. So I definitely have to say him.
Yeah, Lewis. I always remember that first race he did at Fuji in, I think it was 2007, in the wet. And it was the most, it was horrendous conditions. And he basically said he was listening to where the breaking points were, because you couldn't really hear or you couldn't really see anything. And so he would listen out to when people were slowing down. And that was the most incredible race. And of course he won that hands down, which was something else. But yeah, no, I mean he's done incredibly well on track, and it is great to see him race. And who knows what will happen over this weekend, if he'll get another win, or what he'll have. But yeah, no, it's quite some driver. That so what I think, obviously you've seen quite a few Grand Prix. What's been your most memorable race that you've actually watched?
Grand Prix wise, I mean the Hamilton Rosberg Bahrain race in 2014 was pretty epic. It's just a lot of the Formula One gets criticised for being very boring, whereas I've got a bit more of a sympathetic for it, where I sort of appreciate how quick what they're actually doing is pretty incredible. But I mean, I'm still one that I love seeing a good race, and that was pretty good. Obviously, a fight for the lead. You see scraps for some of the lower down places, but when it's one for the lead, it sort of has you on the edge of your seat for the whole time.
Yeah, no, that's the thing, isn't it? I always remember watching Monaco in 1992. That shows you how old I am. That was the phrase, seeing Senna and Mansell battle, and it was just incredible. I was a big Senna fan, but the only Grand Prix I've ever watched live was at Donington in 1993, where Senna won it. And that was an incredible experience. I was literally my 18th birthday. And I went there and watched the whole thing with my friends, and it was just a fantastic race.
Was that the one with the opening lap where he went from about 7th to 1st? Yeah, that's pretty epic. That's really good.
Absolutely amazing. And the noise, and you saw everything. Nowadays they're all kind of covered with the big side pods and everything. There you could actually, when they changed gear, you could see the head and the neck move. It was something else. You could see their arms working. and all that kind of stuff. It was just astonishing. But we saw where we were at the old Donington Loop at the back of the circuit. Just at the, and Schumacher went straight off into the gravel, just about 100 yards in front of us. So it was quite exciting seeing all these drivers kind of rounding about.
Wicked.
It was just the most incredible experience. But so what would you say? So you're going to be in the GT4 Super Cup this year. What would be your kind of goals and objectives over the next few years? Do you have a particular target in sight that you would like to get to?
I mean, again, you probably spoke to a lot of drivers where their mindset is, I want to race in Formula One, which again, you can't knock anyone for trying it. But I mean, ever since I went to that first Le Mans race back in 2005, that was where I was like, I definitely want to do this. That's my bucket list race. So now we're stepping into the GT side of racing rather than the front wheel drive side. That's what I'd love to be able to do if I could. And we're working hard to get there. And this is sort of the first step on that ladder.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because that's what, when I spoke to David Perel a few months back, that was always his first thing that he wanted to say. Its kind of goal was to race at Le Mans, and now he's going to do so, which is quite a thing. So he's quite excited about that. But I mean, it's an amazing race, the whole Le Mans series. But when you see it live over that 24-hour period, it's an epic thing. You have to be it's almost like a marathon for drivers, isn't it? You have to be so fit and ready and able to cope with the not just during the day, but at night time, and also if you get magic, rain at night must be horrendous in those kind of cars. And you can hardly see. I always say when you watch it on board, you think, "Cool, those lights." I mean, I know they must be powerful in real life, but when you watch it on telly, you think they can hardly barely see where the apexes are or where the next corner is, isn't it? It's kind of quite a challenge. But we've got another good question from Andrew Marr, and he was saying, apart from your teammate, who should be watching out for in the Ginetta season?
I mean, again, I'm not so clued up on who's who at the moment because I'm so new to it. But I mean, from doing the last two races last year, the guys in it, they're incredibly quick, as you'd expect. Obviously, people racing at that level, and I'm sure that usually in race series you sort of get a standout 3-4 drivers, maybe slightly more, that are sort of one step ahead of the rest of the field, and then you have a little mid, or you have like a bit of a mid pack, and then you have your tail enders. So I'm hoping to be in that top, sort of top 5-6 drivers to start with, and then by mid-season be regularly on the podium. That's the goal what we're working towards. And this year, I mean, because they've pushed it back due to COVID. So in the hope that they can get fans in. So I think from round one, they're allowing 4,000 spectators into Snetterton, which is the 12th and 13th of July. And then I think Brands Hatch is 2 weeks after that. And hopefully they can have more people there. But yeah, we've teamed up with last year's championship winning team, Rob Boston Racing, and working with them guys. They know their stuff. And yeah, I can't, and obviously Billy Ruffian shoes. Without them, I wouldn't be on the grid. So a massive thank you to them.
That's fantastic. One of the questions I had was, I mean, it always seems to be the big question is funding and the difficulty of getting that, especially in times like we have here with COVID. How did you find managing to get that? Was it really a matter of having to talk to lots of different people and trying to go through all your connections? How difficult was it to get funding for racing?
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible, really, the amount of emails I've sent since I started to go racing to anyone and everyone, and you pick up on the niches you can offer, because in my eyes it's a partnership. People, it's not nice. Like, I don't want it to be seen as someone sponsoring me and then I'm just going and having a jolly racing. It's a partnership, and I try and give back to the sponsor as much as they're giving to me. So obviously that's hospitality at every race, and they can do hot laps in the car with me at the end of the year, and we've like as much stuff as I can offer them with advertisement in the press. Social media is obviously massive nowadays. That's what everyone wants you to advertise on. So yeah, it's really just offering a good deal back. And out of the 10 million emails I've ever sent, I might have only had five replies. I mean, I even prefer someone replying saying no than yes is still good, just so you can establish a connection with them. But yeah, it's hard work. I mean, I like hats off to every driver that's on the grid that's done it, because it's incredibly hard, and I feel very privileged that I can actually do something I love doing.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's fantastic, and it's good to know, and well done on being able to make it, because it is incredibly tough out there, especially in these times, so to get it done. And I'm sure you're a very good deal and a very good prospect for any sponsor out there that wants to come into racing and see a good return on their investment.
I hope so.
Yeah, I'm sure of it. To be able to do the racing like this, you've got to be very, very good. So no, I'm sure that is exactly what you are. That a question about your car, those Ginettas. They look really snappy and kind of wild to drive. Are they really like that when you're actually driving it, or are they kind of neutral, or does it feel like you can control them fairly easily?
Yeah, so I mean, we've pretty much every car, even the front-wheel drive, has similarities in terms of like. I'm a firm believer anyone can get in a car and drive it quickly, and the more practice you get, the quicker you'll get. And you can sort of drive it comfortably, nothing really happening. The car's quite planted under you. But that, like I said, in the championship, most championships, you'll have a runaway 4 or 5 drivers, and they'll be pushing that car beyond the limit of what the others are. So the car will be moving around a lot more in the corners. So yeah, I mean, it's a nice car to drive, but when you do really push it, the back stepping out and you're fighting the steering, like obviously it's all in a smooth fashion. You don't, sideways isn't fast, but you can feel the car moving under you in the corner. And if you're not pushing hard enough.
Now that's quite a thing, because I've seen quite a few of the videos of the Ginetta Cup, and it is wild. I mean, you can really feel that everything's just bouncing about, and you kind of think, my goodness, especially in places like Thruxton, we've got those long corners, and you think, my goodness, if you get the bump wrong with that, it could really kind of snap away.
Yeah,
and that would be it. You're off into the fields before they find you, isn't it? So that's kind of the thing. What's your favourite track out there on the calendar?
Well, it's funny you mentioned Thruxton. We tested there last week, and oh boy, it is so fast. Especially I've never driven the Ginetta's the fastest car I've been in, and it was a real eye opener going around. It was like a roller coaster. It was so good. I was gearing myself up before I went, because I was like, I need to be quick from lap 2. So I went out and tried to go flat out straight away, dipped a wheel in the grass, and I was like, "Oh, this is going to be an airplane crash," but it was all right. But yeah, I've got to say, Thruxton, when you nail a lap there, it's edge of your seat, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, do you have those moments when you think, "Oh goodness me, it's a bit nerve-wracking," or I suppose you think, "I got away with that one," but or is it? I suppose there's so many things happening, you're just going to keep focused on your the next corner and so on, or do you find that you think about it afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, it's more of at the time that happens, and you're going 150, just say, and then you've got no time to sort of sit there and go, "Oh, cool, that was close," because you're already in the next corner. So you've got to brush it off and then crack on, really. And then after, you can check your trousers and make sure they're not brown.
That's the thing. Now we've got a rather nice question here from Thomas Scrivener. He says, "Does Luke remember signing my son's teddy bear when I went to watch him at Donington? That was awesome."
Did he say? What was the question, sorry?
He must have signed his son's teddy bear when you went to watch you at Donington.
Really? I mean, I know Tom well, and I know for a fact he hasn't got a son, unless I don't remember that race weekend. But yeah,
they were winding you up good and proper. That's
what he actually means. It was his teddy bear, not his son's.
Ah, right. Oh, that's right. His friend. Well, you've made his day, that's for sure.
Good. Yeah, I'm glad.
That's the thing. And so, what would be, if you could choose a race that you would like to go and see in the future, perhaps like a Grand Prix? What would it be?
I mean, I've been lucky enough to go to Silverstone on and off over the last few years. I'd love to go. I'd probably say Monza. Put a Ferrari top on and just go and crack on with all the Italians and just have a great weekend down there. But I mean, Monaco would be epic, but I don't think I could afford to go to Monaco. So yeah, I'd probably say Italy. Go to Monza.
Yeah, it's incredible when they have the big Ferrari flags out at the end. If the Ferraris do well, isn't it? And everyone who comes onto the track for the podium and stuff, it's just incredible. It does look amazing. But now, for obviously we do a lot of sim racing on the channel here. Have you ever had a go at sim racing? Is it something? Do you have a little sim rig packed away somewhere in the background to have a go?
I mean, I've dabbled. Don't get me wrong. I mean, back at my parents' house, we have got like a race seat and steering wheel and pedals for the PlayStation, which will regularly play. But I wouldn't dare to say I'm a sim racer of any sorts, because I know that you and the sim racers are madly quick, and if I ever challenged anyone, I think they'd leave me for dust. But I like the idea of it, and if I had the room, I definitely would invest in having the kit, because I think it's a great step into racing. So I mean, this year I haven't been to Knock Hill. I've never raced there, never been there, and it would be great if I had a sim rig. I could sit there and just pound round all day, just to ingrain what the circuit's like in my head. I know it's not exactly the same, but there's definitely traits you can take from one and apply in the other. So yeah, I mean, I've dabbled, but no, I wouldn't say I'm a sim racer of any sort.
No, that's, I mean, that's the great thing about the PlayStation and things like that, is that you can just buy the stuff and have a go and when you want to. I know people like David Perel, he was the first person that I interviewed that said actually that it was almost as good as go-karting. He says if you want to actually learn a circuit, and it's like what you've been saying, going on the sim race, playing like GT Sport was a fantastic way of getting yourself into the conditions. And he's learned a lot of tracks as well from using GT Sport and Assetto Corsa. So yeah, no, he's found it pretty good. So where can we catch you? So you mentioned Knock Hill, which is in my old country of Scotland, where I just moved away from. So you go up there once a year, and you're saying you've never driven it before. What would be your kind of? Are you kind of looking forward to that circuit? It's kind of crazy. It's very, very short, but lots of inclines and declines.
Yeah, I mean, it's I can't. I've only heard good things. Not so much about the weather. I haven't heard good things about the weather. But, I can't wait. It's so nice to go to a new circuit. I can't wait to go. I mean, there's Croft I've only been to once. Again with Thruxton, I say it's my favourite circuit. I've only been there once. I just loved it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to going to Knock Hill. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, I'm guessing you'll need snow boots in the morning and suntan lotion in the afternoon.
Is that any time of year? Is it?
Any time of year. That's in August. I was there about 3 weeks ago for the touring cars, and literally it was boiling in the morning, absolutely frying in the morning, and it went down to about 3 degrees in the afternoon, and it was absolutely freezing. And then of course you get rain and all sorts as well, so it can be quite quite good. It's right up in the hills, so it's great fun. But it makes for some really, really good races, and that it's always very exciting.
I bet, yeah.
Now we've got a good question from Kevin Murphy. He says, do you remember throwing my cart off the track at Rye House?
Wow, this is a dig at Luke days. Yes, I do remember that, Kevin. It's not something that I shout about often, but yeah, it was, I think, my first go in a go-kart, and I gave it the big one that I was going to be the big I am, and I think I threw it off into a bog at Rye House, and it was very, very muddy. Thanks for reminding me, Kev.
Don't worry, you have the option of saying no comment if you don't want to answer it. All right.
Yeah, no comment. I've already answered that.
No, that's great. And Thomas Scrivener has said, do you have a favourite corner? And if so, on which track?
God, that's quite tame for Tom, really. Favourite corner. I mean, it gets very different. I remember really struggling with Paddock Hill Bend at Brands Hatch in the Mini, but as soon as I got in the Ginetta, everything, maybe just because I'm so used to driving it front wheel drive and it getting a bit leery, whereas it was so much more settled in the Ginetta. Paddock Hill's pretty immense. I mean, I've never driven abroad. I'd love to go to Spa and actually race at a circuit like Spa, or go to the Nürburgring. It just looks epic. The circuits look awesome. So I'd love to do that. But favourite in the UK, I mean, Paddock Hill was pretty mega.
Yeah, and it's so off. Well, the corners at Brands Hatch are quite off camber here and there, aren't they? It's a real challenge. I know for games, it's a tough one in lots of different cars. So I imagine in real life it must be even more kind of crazy and scary if you're not used to that kind of thing. But obviously you are. But for somebody like myself, it's insane to kind of do it in real life. But no, that's fantastic. Now, in terms of real life cars, do you have a kind of favorite car that you're kind of aspiring towards?
I mean, if I was going classic car, so my grandfather raced and my old man dabbled, and they used to race in the Aston Martin Owners Club back in the day. So he had an Aston DB4, and I remember he used to sit on the drive. So when I'd come home from school, when I was in year 1, year 2, there was this bright yellow Aston, and I didn't really know the sort of value and how cool that actually was. So I'd love to have one of them now. I think that I know the DB5 is the iconic Aston, but I'd probably still go DB4. I know it's not quite as valuable, but I'd still absolutely love that as a classic. And modern car, I mean, give me anything. I love a Porsche 911 would be great. GTR, yeah, anything.
I mean,
Ford KA. Who doesn't love a Ford KA?
Yeah, that's the thing, because you can still drive it quickly, isn't it? That's the thing. That nicely goes on to our next question from Jake Toombs. He says, do you drive your car on the road like you do on the track?
I mean, I probably used to when I mean, Jake will probably know because he was with me. In fact, he actually crashed my car for me, my old Vauxhall Corsa. But I don't. I look forward to doing it on the circuit, so I do it on the roads. I don't do it on the roads.
Very responsible answer. That's all right.
Yes.
And were you a bit of a boy racer though when you first started driving? When you got your test?
Yeah, I think we all were. I mean, me and lucky enough, my friends were all mad into racing. So even if I wasn't racing, the three of us, me, Jake, and Tom, would probably still go to Brands Hatch anyway, and just to go and watch. And yeah, we could all get in one car, but we'd all decide to go in our own and just go there as quick as we could. Obviously under 17. Yeah, we used to absolutely love it.
Yeah. Oh, that's the thing. I always remember there was great stories of, I think it was Jean Alesi and Gerhard Berger when they drove for Ferrari. And if they'd had a really bad day at the track, they would decide just to leave early. And of course, they all had company cars, which are the latest Ferrari. And they would go, do incredible mileage all in the south of France or whatever it might be, literally in a couple of hours. And you think, good gracious, I would not have wanted to be a passenger in that car. Because you kind of imagine the kind of fuming that they'd be like inside. As if they had a frustrating day. But in terms of that, what's been probably your most frustrating moment in racing cars so far?
I've had a few. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes you come so close to a good result, and then when it's snatched away from you last minute, it can be heartbreaking. I mean, I won't lie, I've definitely cried at the circuit a few times, but what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? But yeah, I don't know, a standout hard moment. I'm sure the boys are going to start commenting some of them in because I can't remember them all. But I remember being on the grid at Brands Hatch, and we had a really strong first race, and we were sort of in the top five maybe. And I was so confident we were going to have a good second race and then potentially be on the podium, have a win. And then on the grid, as we started the warm-up lap, I think the clutch exploded or something like that. And I was just, or something failed. And I just remember getting pushed back into the garage and just like head down. And But yeah, those moments they sort of push you on to, you either give up then or you never give up and you sort of pick yourself up and crack on, really.
Yeah, that's the thing. And how has your kind of family reacted to now racing full time and going in these big championships? Do you find that you do get a lot of support and they're quite happy, or are your parents slightly nervous of you racing?
I mean, yeah, I mean, don't be wrong, they've been great. They've always been super supportive. Yeah, I mean, I don't think my dad has ever watched the start of a race. If you ever at a race circuit, he'll be the one with a half-empty coffee, not because he's dropped it, it's because he can't keep his hands still. Yeah, so yeah, mum and dad, family, brothers, they all come down and they're super supportive. I mean, both my brothers have dabbled in racing, and me and my middle brother Chris are gonna race a KA as well as the Ginetta this year in the endurance championship with Sam Lukes and John White. So yeah, I can't wait to, because it doesn't matter what car it is. It could be a KA or a Ginetta. You still, if you drive it flat out, you're gonna have fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely, isn't it? That's the thing. But so, what kind of things do you like to do when you're not racing them? When you kind of you in your calm moments, or to take out your frustrations? Do you have a particular type of sport or hobby that you like to do?
I mean, there's that famous Steve McQueen line, isn't it? Racing's life, and everything else is waiting to do that, and it is very much that. I mean, if I'm not racing, it's getting prepared to go. Again, a lot of my previous racing, I would say I've almost taken it for granted, in the way where I just wasn't prepared in the way I am this year. So this year I've left no stone unturned. So if I'm not at the circuit testing, I'm on the phone to the team, quizzing them on stuff and trying to make the car better or just learn the circuit. So, but aside from that, I'm generally quite busy with work, and I like to make the time to try and see my friends. Obviously, now we're out of lockdown, we can do that.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
there's no real hobbies or anything else that I do.
No, that's fine. No, that's good to know. And we've got a question here from Thomas again. What is the Ginetta like in the wet?
Yeah, I mean, the first time I went out, so the first time we tested the car was at Silverstone in the wet, and yeah, I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. It was just so grippy. The wet tires, the Michelin's it's on, is just so much more grip than I'm used to. I've ever driven anything. So obviously the Ginetta's got a certain amount of mechanical grip, but the Michelin's, when you put them on, a corner you think you'd be heavily braking for, you're almost flat out into. So it's a little bit daunting at first, but as soon as you realise how much grip there is there, you realise it's actually, I mean, when the tyres go off, it's a different story and you're sideways everywhere. But when you've got fresh boots on, it is mad how grippy they actually can be.
Yeah. And do you find your tyres last quite well in a race? Or can they go off quite easily, or even, 3/4 of the way through? Do you notice a very big difference quite quickly?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had enough time in the Ginetta to know, but again, from the time I've been in, you have an optimum couple of laps where the tyres are at their best, and then they just, every lap you lose a bit of performance. And yeah, it's exactly the same with the wets. When you have a fresh wet on, they might be a second quicker than an old set of wets, depending on what circuit you're at. I mean, a track like Thruxton, a brand new set of slicks, you'll be going around in just say a 113, 114 on an old set of slicks that have been used for 20 minutes more. There's probably about a 3 to 4 second a lap drop off. So it's massive, really.
Yeah.
But that's just Thruxton. It's very quick circuit. So a circuit like Brands, it wouldn't be as much of a drop off.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now that's quite a thing. Now we have another quick quote from Jake Toombs. He was reminding you of the things that went wrong. He's saying putting it in the gravel at Silverstone when you were running third in the wet is the moment that he remembers. But
I've mentally built that one out, so thanks for reminding me. No, yeah, that was probably one of the worst ones. Again, that was the first year of the mini challenge, and it was the first time we'd ever been in the wet. I don't think we'd even tested the car in the wet, and I don't know where we qualified, but I think we qualified 10th maybe in the dry, and we had a reasonably good start. And I was sort of going, I'm overtaking cars now, one by one. I'm like, okay, we're now in third. I can see the leader. I'm like, in my head, I'm going to win this race. I'm definitely going to win this race. And then as I turned into turn one, it just nothing happened. I think the clutch had exploded, and I conveniently parked up where where Jake and Tom and my dad were standing, and they were calling me over, but I was just like, I can't face it right now. But yeah, the car broke down a lot in year one.
Oh, that's the thing. But now, on a more positive note, for all us kind of sim racers and fans out there of motorsport, do you have top tips for budding racing drivers? What would be your 5 kind of top tips if you want to be a racing driver?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say number one is so it can be so easy to give up at any point, whether it's down to funding or running out of talent on there. But I'd say the biggest one is just don't give up. If you seriously want to do it, you've just got to keep pushing on, trying to find backing, trying to improve yourself at the race circuit. And if you're not improving, why not? And then there's always a reason. I mean, everyone's relatively the same. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, it's just don't give up. If you want to do something, like if you want to race, crack on. I mean, that's sort of everything in a nutshell, really. I can't really say more.
I mean, I suppose as well, your fitness has to be very good, isn't it? You've got to be training all the time to be at your peak.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you can make yourself as advertisable as possible, if that makes sense. So if you can present yourself so you're in fit form, you're more likely to get back in as well. Because it's like I said, because I can't test all the time. On the off days, I'll be out running, I'll be doing weights just to get myself as physically in shape as possible. I'd like to be as in shape as possible to jump in the next category up, whether that be a Porsche or some other GT car. So it's just being aware of, okay, so an opportunity comes up to drive something. Are you ready to do it? Because I never want to turn down an opportunity, whatever that may be.
Mm-hmm. What would be your? I know we talked about Le Mans earlier, but if there could be any kind of, if somebody said you would like to drive this, like one of the F1 cars, would you ever fancy having a go in something like that?
Oh god, yeah, that'd be amazing.
From like,
yeah, I mean, I'd bite someone's hand off if they sort of dangled the keys for a Formula One car in front of me. It doesn't matter what car it is. I mean, we went around with the working in the Masters historic, and we went round to a lot of the historic Grand Prix where they run sort of the pre-80s Formula One cars. So you see the old James Hunt car and stuff like that. And it's just the sound and the noise. It was amazing. So, I mean, I know by today's standards, they're nowhere near as quick, but I still think that'd be amazing to get in an old Formula One car.
Yeah,
it's just so mechanical. There's no electronics really. I just think that I'd rather do that than jump in a brand new car where you need to be a computer wizard to drive it as well.
To make it all come about. I used to love Mansell's car in '92 because it was like semi-automatic boxes and active suspension and all sorts of things that it seemed like an amazing car. And that V10 Renault engine was amazing to listen to.
They sounded good, didn't they?
Oh, they were good. I love that about Goodwood. When they have the Formula One cars, and we were right behind the hedgerow as all the V8 cars started. They had the Red Bull, the Toro Rosso, the Ferrari, and there was another one. I think it was like a Manor or one of the other companies, other F1 teams were there, and one by one they started them up, and it was just that those V8 sounds were just incredible. But we used to go to testing as well at Jerez, over in Spain, because you get in for like €10. And we did it in 2008, and we saw the first car we saw was Hamilton coming around in the McLaren, and that was it. Oh, it was brilliant, and we saw the practice pit stops and things like that. And that kind of F1 was amazing. I think this year, I mean, the cars are a bit louder than they used to be. For someone like myself, who was an older F1 fan, we kind of miss the V8s and the V10s because they had those incredible sounds. But we're kind of getting used to the hybrid to some way. We just wish they were a bit more racing.
I mean, the sound's such a big part of it, isn't it, really? Like when you turn up to a circuit, you hear the cars and they're so loud. I mean, that's part of it that I miss from today's Formula One. But there's so much other racing out there. Like you can go and watch the historics and you can relive that sound. And like you said, you can go to Goodwood and see it. So it's definitely not lost. It's just a shame it's not in the top level of racing.
Yeah. Well, they're saying they might use 3-cylinder engines in the next batch of F1 updates. And if they do that could be quite interesting because they can rev a lot higher. And that could be, we might get some proper noise again from
I hope
doing
so.
that.
I hope so.
That would be fantastic. Well, I appreciate you've been on for nearly 50 minutes. Just coming up 50 minutes on the show, which is very, very kind. I know you've had a very busy week racing and all your practicing and all these kind of things that you've been up to. But just for the viewers who are watching today, if you like lots of interviews like you've seen tonight, we've got a big back catalogue on the Car Sim and Race Driver Show and on this channel, the Hugh Hat-Trick channel. And it would be fantastic if you were able to subscribe as well or give us a like. That would be amazing. And if you're watching from our side, this is the first time that you've met Luke, make sure you go onto YouTube and put his name in, and you'll see incredible clips of Luke racing. How else can they get in contact with you? Yes, exactly. They can. There could be a sponsor watching that's ready to come along. What's the best way to follow you?
I mean, Instagram would be the best way. I sort of put as much as I can up on that. I try and regularly update that, or my Facebook page. So you've got Luke Reade Racing as the Facebook page, or at lreade026, I think is the Instagram. I should know that, but I'm pretty sure it's that. But yeah, if you'd be so kind to give me a follow, I'll keep you updated with all my racing shenanigans.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, look, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you tonight, and stay on the line at the moment as we finish up with the show. But we are kind of very much amateurs on the Car Sim and Race Driver Show. And when my friend did his Silverstone racing license many years back, he was in there were two groups of drivers there, and in one group was Kevin Magnussen, very young Kevin Magnussen. So they did all their kind of pre-racing stuff, the qualifying and practice, and then there was a big briefing in the morning saying, right, you've got 2 races, and if you crash on either race, that's it. You won't be allowed. If you crash in the first one, you won't be allowed to do the second one. So does anyone have any questions? And this was the chief instructor for Silverstone. And at the end of it, he said, well, I tell you what, I've learned so much. I know I'm going to win the race at the first corner. And the instructor just put his hands to his head and said, oh, goodness.
Oh, God.
So that's been our motto here at the Car Sim and Race Driver Show. It's to win the race at the first corner. But no, we have lots of fun, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. And thanks to everyone who's been watching and supporting Luke already, who's been asking questions here tonight. And we're on normally every Thursday at 9 o'clock live for more interviews. Next week we have JSR Devon, who is very big on YouTube with about nearly over 20,000 followers and subscribers on YouTube, and he does a very famous video called Idiots of the Week, which he finds the worst drivers on GT Sport and makes a mockery of them. So he's coming on next week, so that should be fun. But from everyone here on our side and to Luke, we wish you all the best for a fantastic year of racing, and hopefully we'll catch up with you on the grid. We'll try and get to some of your events. We'll need to get the calendar and see where you are, and see if we can come and see you race live. That would be fantastic.
I'll see you at the track.
That would be super. Excellent. So drive fast and try not to crash, everyone, and we'll see you very soon. Bye just now.